Welcome back to another video. Just want to thank you guys who tuned in. Give me a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff as usual. Now, last video, I talked about how pathetic the Dallas Cowboys were and their fans were, but I'm done with that for now. I want to talk about the game against the Commanders on Sunday, things I noticed, and answer the question of do I think the Eagles have a chance to win the Super Bowl, considering the fact that they have clinched a playoff spot so far. So, let's talk about the game. Now, going into the game, you thought, okay, they beat the Raiders 31-0, 34-0, whatever it was. The Raiders are terrible. The Commanders are terrible too, but they're at least a somewhat respectable football team. So you knew it was going to be tougher, and it was, granted. But the Eagles' offense eventually got things going for the most part. The defense did their job. And it was I don't want to say a relatively easy win because I believe they were trailing at halftime thanks to Jake Elliott missing like 3 field goals. 3 or 4, I don't even know. On one time he got a chance to kick another one, and again, he still missed it. So that's beside the point. So let's talk about the offense. You know, Greg Olsen said on the broadcast, and this has kind of been a prevailing thought that he's said multiple times, and this is something that multiple people have said, is that the Eagles have kind of found their identity and they're a under center football team, and Jalen Hurts needs to get used to that. And I don't disagree necessarily that it would benefit them, but only if they're having success running the ball from under center and only if they're running play action off of that. Now, there's two problems with that. One is that they don't run the ball successfully, and the other problem is that part of the reason they don't run the ball successfully is because Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens, your two interior offensive linemen, have struggled so much. And if you're running the ball from under center, it's most likely going to be up the middle. Shotgun is usually when you have those RPOs or zone reads and you run to the outside. Now, granted, you can do toss plays or whatever, but for the most part, you run under center when you're, or excuse me, you run up the middle when you're under center. That being said, even if you don't run the ball, you can still use play action to generate open looks over the middle of the field specifically, which I think they did a good job of in the Chargers game, but then they kind of abandoned. So we'll see what happens when the playoffs come. That being said, there's this idea that Jalen Hurts isn't comfortable under center. I disagree. There's been evidence of him talking pre-draft that he likes doing it. I think it's just another stupid narrative, but that's just me. But I also think, and this is a key thing that I've noticed, I think their offense, specifically their passing offense, obviously, and you'll see why, is best out of empty. Now, what is empty? Empty formation means there's no running back or there's nobody in the backfield to block, right? It's just the quarterback and everybody else is running a route. One of the main reasons why I think this has helped is because it's reduced Jalen Hurts' sack rate, and I'll explain to you why. So, first of all, you just look at the stats here. From weeks 1 to 8, he took 25 sacks. From weeks 8 to 14, he's only taken 6 sacks. Now, why do I think that is? I don't think he's gotten the ball out quicker. I don't really think the offensive line has improved at all. If anything, it's gotten worse with Lane Johnson out, even though I always find his absence to be a little bit overstated in terms of the Eagles' struggles, but that's another topic for another day. The reason I think that's improved is because earlier in the season, they would run 3 routes or so, and they would have Saquon in the backfield to chip and to pick up the blitz, but they weren't blitzing. They were just dropping guys into coverage, and that would lead to a lot of coverage sacks. So now when you're running empty and you have to guard Saquon in the flat or whatever route he's running, it doesn't allow the defense to send as many guys on the blitz. So how does that help the passing game? Well, for one, they have to cover more areas of the field. It's just another weapon out there that you have to defend. And two, I also think it helps because, for a while, defenses could get away with zone coverage, specifically against the Eagles, because of the routes that the Eagles love to run, no matter the coverage. When you're running zone coverage, hitch routes and comeback routes aren't great routes to throw against zone coverage. But now, at least if you run that out of empty, the defenders are dropping back and they have another offensive player to worry about. And that's why Jalen Hurts usually takes off and runs against zone coverage, let everybody else go downfield. And at least then, if everybody's covered up, you at least have a running lane, as opposed to when you have these coverage sacks and Saquon's blocking guys, but there's nobody to really block. and everybody's defended downfield, then when he takes off, there's nowhere to really run because there's a guy in the B gap or the C gap, wherever, and they just tackle him for a gain of like 2 or 3, as opposed to now he's running for first down. So that's what I really think their identity should be in the passing game. In the running game, I mean, you can run it out of shotgun, you can run it from under center. I would like to see more, play action passes, specifically over the middle to AJ. Use his big body. I would also like to see them run more crossing routes to Devontae. They never run those crossing plays anymore. And that doesn't even have to be a crosser over the middle. It could be a crosser, when you throw outside the hashes. But that's just a schematical note that I wanted to go over. Now, when we talk about the specific game and how this game played out, this was just another bad Nick Sirianni game, honestly, in my opinion. And I hate to be all doom and gloom, but the end of the second quarter, the end of the first half, was just despicable. They had the ball at their own 40-yard line, I believe, or close to midfield. And they ran a play. It was a successful play, so it wasn't a play where they needed to waste clock or anything. So it was a positive play. And instead of running another play before the 2-minute warning, they just let it run down and wasted 30 seconds. And what did that do? It made it so they had zero margin for error, and so they had to play for a field goal, when they really didn't need to do that at all. They could have been aggressive and ran a few more plays and gotten a touchdown. Now, I've been critical of Nick Sirianni of when he's not been aggressive, when there's like 20 or 30 seconds left, but there was 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. I mean, to be a coward in that scenario, like, please, like, give it a break. And what happened? Jalen ended up recovering one of his fumbles. He either didn't know or forgot that he could throw the ball away. It was for a loss, and it eventually led to a Jake Elliott field goal that he missed. So that was just game management terrible. Another thing is the tush push is not working anymore. And not only is the tush push not working anymore, but it's actively harming them, because they go up to the line, and instead of just running the play, I've said this all year long and over the years, if you're going to run the tush push, specifically this year when they're cracking down on it, get up to the line and snap the ball. The more you do your little hard count and try to draw the opponent off sides, you're just leaving it up to too many variables. Like an offensive player's jumping, the ref throws the flag. Now you're moving back because it's a false start. We've even seen, I think it was the Dallas game or the Detroit game, even when the defense jumps, the offense gets called. So they're overcompensating for all this heat they're getting in the league office and everybody complaining. It's the juice isn't even worth the squeeze anymore, because they're not even converting. They're not getting the push on the offensive line anymore from the interior offensive linemen. Defenders they're timing it. They're getting different techniques to stop it. So just do something else. I don't know. So, and then the last thing is, and this goes back to Nick Sirianni being a coward. There's so many times where they try to draw the opponent off sides, but they don't even use a hard count. I mean, we saw it like 3 separate times against the Commanders in that game on Saturday night, where, most quarterbacks will get up to the line and they'll be like, the Eagles are just getting up to the line and they're sending Dallas Goedert in motion, and they're not even doing anything to try to get the defense off sides. Like, they're not doing anything. There's no purpose to it whatsoever. Another terrible play is I called it out like on TV even before it happened. I was like, oh, this is going to be a quarterback draw. Why? Because A.J. Brown went off the field, Devontae Smith went off the field, Saquon Barkley went off the field. It was a 2nd and 8 or 9, I believe. Tank Bigsby was in the backfield. Darius Cooper was the closest receiver to Jalen Hurts. Darius Cooper is probably their best blocking wide receiver. It certainly isn't Devontae Smith. So that kind of gave that away. And just overall, I don't know, the play calling just leaves a lot to be desired. That said, they did score 29 points. But when I look at the team and I think, do I think they're going to win the Super Bowl? No, I don't. Because, when you want, and granted, look, there is no elite team this year. Anybody could win it. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles won the Super Bowl, but I wouldn't pick them the same way I did last year. When I watched the team last year, that Baltimore game, like, really showed me something. When they won that game and Cooper DeJean slammed Derrick Henry to the ground, you were like, damn, this team has it. Not only have I not seen that from this team, I've seen that they're closer to bad than good. But they're going to make the playoffs, so we'll see. But I will say that the number one key to them in the playoffs, other than the obvious, which is like Jalen playing well and the defense playing well, is that Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson have to be better. they're fine in pass protection, but run blocking, I don't know what's happened with them, if it's just the wear and tear from last playoffs or what. But even on the runs where Saquon broke free and Tank Bigsby broke free, I mean, they are whiffing blocks. They're not even getting any push whatsoever. I mean, the Eagles' social media team posted a clip on Twitter of Saquon's touchdown, and Cam Jurgens just completely misses a guy until he gets to the second level. I mean, he's facing contact in the backfield on so many of these plays. And when you have to get into these 2nd and 12 and 2nd and 10 scenarios, it limits what you can do, especially with the Eagles' offensive play calls. I mean, when it's a 2nd and 4 and a 3rd and 4, you can get away with running hitch routes as much as you do. When it's a 2nd and 12, like, yeah, you really can't get away with it. So that limits what they can do. Obviously, over the next coming weeks, we'll see what they decide to do with resting their starters and all that. We'll see what happens this week against Buffalo, which I think will be a pretty ugly game. They won't rest their starters, but I don't know. I just have a feeling it'll be an ugly game. Once we find out, what seed the Eagles will end up, we'll look ahead, all that stuff. But that's just my feelings on the game and what I think the Eagles' best formula is going forward offensively. It's got to start with the 2 offensive linemen, specifically, obviously, Jurgens and Dickerson. And then I think they just got to run more out of the empty formations where Jalen Hurts is at his best, and he can just pick apart the defense. Do I think they're going to win the Super Bowl? Probably not. It's hard to win the Super Bowl. I sound like a Cowboys fan, but it is. But we'll see what happens. Anything can happen. Give me a like, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys next time.